There were 2 plates on the table, one with reheated lasagna, the other untouched. The chair across from me was still slightly angled, as though someone had almost sat down, then changed their mind. The wine in her glass was poured by me. She did that before leaving a cruel joke. A full glass standing, a silent reminder of her absence. I didn't eat much. I never do winches with him. I say with him because there's no point pretending anymore. He used to be just her old friend, then her ex, now simply James. But none of that matters when she chooses his party over coming home. At 6:47 p.m., I texted her, still planning to be back tonight. It remained unread. At 7:22 p.m., the neighbor's dog started barking. I looked out the window, hopeful, but there was nothing. Just the wind, the streetlights flickering on, the world carrying on while I sat with 2 plates and a head full of noise. By 8 p.m., I had memorized every groove in the kitchen table's wood. It wasn't about jealousy anymore. It was something quieter, colder, like a draft you can't find but still feels like it's touching your skin. That feeling of being erased in real time. Every time she laughed at his joke, every drink she poured, every time she didn't text back. Around 9:13 p.m., I opened the drawer beneath the microwave, the one where we kept random things. Old coupons, expired batteries, letters. I wasn't looking for anything, but I found something anyway. A photo of us, not fancy, just a candid I took with a camera timer. We were barefoot, eating pancakes on the floor after painting the living room. She had frosting on her nose. I looked ridiculous and happy. God, I looked happy. I left that photo on her plate, right in the center, and then I went upstairs. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't throw a fit. I just grabbed the one thing she never thought it'd take, the framed certificate from my first job after college, the one she always said made her proud. I left everything else behind, except the house key I tucked into the toe of her red heel at the front door. By the time she came home, long after midnight, her makeup was smudged and her laughter had faded into the echo of someone else's music. She opened the front door expecting silence. What she got was absence. It wasn't mine anymore. The front door creaked open just after 1 a.m. I know because the hallway light, on a motion timer, flicked on automatically when she crossed the threshold. She probably expected to see me on the couch, sulking or watching reruns, maybe waiting with some pathetic little question like, "Did you have fun?" But I wasn't there. Not on the couch, not in the bedroom, not in the house. The first thing she probably noticed, besides the eerie stillness, was the cold air. I turned off the heating before I left. The second thing was her wine glass, still full, sitting next to her untouched dinner plate, now stiff and dry. And then, right there in the center of her plate, that photo. The one with her pancake smile and my pain. I imagine she froze when she saw it. Not because of the picture itself, but because of what wasn't there. Me. Then, she must have noticed the key, tucked neatly in the toe of her red heel. The one she wears when she wants to feel powerful, seductive, unattainable. Not the kind of place she'd expect to find something meaningful. But there it was, a silent message. You left first. When I think back, I can't decide if I wanted to hurt her or simply disappear. It's strange, hoping someone will feel your absence without causing them pain. But I knew if I confronted her, it would turn into another twisted back and forth. Her denying, me over-explaining, her sighing and checking her phone, me apologizing for making a scene. No, this time I didn't want her words. I wanted her silence to answer for once. She called me at 1:17 a.m. I watched the screen light up from the front seat of my car, parked under a gas station awning a few miles out. I didn't pick up. She called again and again. Eventually, she left a voicemail. Her voice was shaky. Not drunk, not angry. Confused. "Charlie, I just got home. Where are you? Did something happen? Why is your drawer empty? Why is the photo on my plate? Call me, please." That please wasn't soft. It was sharp. The kind someone uses when they realize they pushed too far but don't know how to pull it back. I didn't call her that night. I sat in my car, engine off, listening to the ticking of the cooling hood. No planes, just a thermos of cold coffee and an old blanket from college that still smelled like mothballs. At 2:40, she sent a text, "Did you leave me?" It wasn't "Where are you?" or "Come home," just raw, vulnerable. But I didn't reply, because I didn't leave her. Not exactly. She just finally noticed I was gone. Back at the house, I imagine she walked in circles. Open drawers, open closets. Maybe check the bathroom to see if my toothbrush was still there. It wasn't. I took it with me, not because I needed it, but because I wanted her to see the gap. Around 9:11 a.m., she sent a string of texts. The first one defensive, "So, you're just ghosting me now." The second hostile, "After everything I've done for you." The third softened, "Charlie, this isn't you. Please don't do this. Can we just talk?" The fourth made my chest tighten. "They'll tell James not to contact me again. I swear. Just come home." It was the first time she said his name without minimizing it. James. Not just a friend. Not you're being dramatic. She named him like she knew what it meant now, but I didn't reply. I couldn't. Because something inside me was still waiting. Waiting for her to understand that the real betrayal wasn't the party, the late night, or the silence. It was how small I had become in her world. At noon, she tried calling again. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I needed to protect what little was left of me. And that's when she did something I didn't expect. She posted a story on social media. A blurry photo of our empty kitchen table. No caption, just that shot. I recognized the angle. She'd taken it from the stairwell, where she always used to pause on Sunday mornings, looking down at me with sleepy eyes. But this time, there was no me. Just the wine glass, the cold plate, and the photo resting on the ceramic. And that's when I realized. She had thrown it away. She left it there, waiting for it to move on its own. Later, I received a video message from her. She was sitting in the kitchen, holding my old hoodie. She didn't ask me to come back. Instead, she admitted she hadn't realized how much she had let me fade. She showed me the photo I had left and asked if there was a chance we could start over. I didn't reply immediately, but I watched that message twice. Something in me shifted. I wasn't sure if I should feel hopeful or defeated. The words she said, "Cora, unguarded," hit me harder than any of our past arguments or silences. For the first time in a long time, I felt like she was seeing me again, not as the background noise in her life, but as someone worth hearing. The next few days passed in a blur. I couldn't decide if I should go back and try to fix what was broken, or if I was too far gone to even care anymore. I stayed at the motel for another night, avoiding the house, avoiding the possibility of seeing her again. But there was something gnawing at me. I needed to know if her words were just desperation, or if there was still something real behind them. Finally, I returned. Not with grand intentions, not with a plan to reconcile, but to see if the woman I had fallen in love with still existed somewhere in the wreckage of what we once had. I drove back to the house, the one that used to feel like home, but now felt like a shell of what it once was. When I walked in, it was quiet. Too quiet. No music, no movement, just the familiar stillness of a place that was waiting for something to change. She was sitting at the kitchen table again, in the same chair where it left the photo. This time, the chair was empty, but there was a cup of tea on the table. The house hadn't changed, not in the ways that mattered. It was the same as when I left, except now it was full of unanswered questions. She didn't look up when I entered. She just sat there, staring at the table, her fingers wrapped around the mug like it was the only thing holding her together. After a few moments, she looked up, meeting my eyes for the first time in days. The silence stretched between us, and I could feel the weight of all the words we hadn't said yet. "I know I screwed up," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I want to fix it. If you're willing to give me a chance, I want to try." I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. My heart was still heavy with all the times I had been ignored, all the moments I had been left behind. But as I looked at her, I saw something different in her eyes. Not the indifference I had gotten used to, but a hint of hope. A willingness to change. To try. "I'm not sure what comes next," I said, my voice low. "I don't know if we can just go back to what we were. But I'm willing to see where this goes. If you really want to try, I'll try too." She nodded, her eyes filling with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. It wasn't a promise that everything would be fixed. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like there was a possibility of something real between us again. A chance to rebuild, not based on what we had lost, but on what we could still find in each other. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. After that conversation, things didn't magically fix themselves. The next few weeks were a mix of uncomfortable silences and cautious attempts to rebuild the connection we once had. We didn't dive back into the way things used to be, but instead, we started small. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic reconciliations. It was just us, sitting in the same room again, talking when we could, listening when we needed to, and sometimes just existing together without forcing anything. I couldn't pretend everything was fine, but slowly, the tension between us started to ease. We didn't have the answers to all our questions, and I wasn't sure if we ever would. But I started to see her again, really see her. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, she saw me too. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for now, that was enough. After that moment, things didn't instantly improve, and our efforts to move forward were far from easy. The house still felt strangely quiet, and despite both of us trying to make the best of it, the weight of everything that had happened hung in the air like an unspoken tension. We'd spend nights in silence, just sitting across from each other at the kitchen table, not talking, just feeling the space between us. But over time, we started to find a rhythm. It wasn't the same, and I knew it would never be. We'd both changed, for better or worse. I started to see her in ways I had for years, not just as the woman I loved, but as someone with her own fears, regrets, and desires. And maybe for the first time, I wasn't the only one feeling invisible. She began showing up for the small things, asking about my day, making an effort to laugh at my jokes, and for the first time in a long while, I saw that glimmer of warmth in her eyes. It wasn't as easy as it sounded, but it was real. There were still nights where we both found ourselves staring into the abyss of our past mistakes, but we tried not to dwell on them for too long. One afternoon, she sat down beside me, her hand gently brushing against mine. "Do you think we can rebuild this?" she asked, her voice quieter than usual. There was no bravado, no defensiveness. Just a question that hung in the air, one that neither of us had dared ask until now. "I don't know," I replied honestly, squeezing her hand. "But I'm willing to try. I think we owe it to ourselves to find out." The days that followed were full of small victories, honest conversations, shared moments of laughter, and an understanding that neither of us could undo the past, but we had the power to shape what came next. It wasn't perfect, and it didn't fix everything, but there was something in there, the possibility that we hadn't allowed ourselves to feel in months. And maybe that was the beginning. Not a perfect, fairy tale ending, but something more grounded. Real.